They say blood is thicker than water, but betrayal? Betrayal is thicker than blood. It stains deeper, cuts colder. And when the knives came from my own family, I didn't scream. I didn't warn them. I just built a legal noose they never saw tightening, until it snapped. My name is Adrian Hale, and for 32 years I believed my family was a sanctuary. A place of warmth. A circle where loyalty ran deeper than bloodlines and holidays meant togetherness rather than strategy. I was wrong. Family is not always home. Sometimes, family is the battlefield where the most beautiful promises are weapons sharpened by envy and entitlement. And I didn't know it, not at first, but my downfall began the day my father died. Not with tears. Not with grief. But with silence. Silence from my mother. Silence from my brother. And silence from the house that raised us. A house now echoing with something darker than loss. My father passed quietly in his sleep, heart failure. A sudden stop in a life built on discipline, business, and devotion. He had always been meticulous. Organized. A man who planned everything. His meals, his meetings, his investments, and, as I would later learn, his legacy. I returned from Boston the next morning, duffel bag in hand, heart heavy and lungs tight. The driveway felt too empty. The wind is still. The home I grew up in, our family estate in Northern Virginia, looked the same, yet felt like a stranger wearing a mask of familiarity. My older brother, Marcus, was already on the porch, leaning back, coffee in hand, expression unreadable. He didn't hug me. Didn't shake my hand. Just raised his cup slightly like he was acknowledging a neighbor passing by. Long flight? He asked. Drive, I said. I came overnight. He nodded, bored. As if my urgency was inconvenient. As if I was an interruption to something bigger than grief. Inside, the air smelled like lemon polish and unspoken resentment. My mother sat at the dining table with a stack of legal folders. Her pearl necklace glimmered. Her posture is perfect. Her smile was brittle, like she had practiced it in the mirror. Adrian, she said softly, you're late? Late. For my father's death. My throat closed. I came as soon as She lifted her hand. Dismissive. Cold. We've already spoken with the attorney, she said. The estate process has begun. Estate process? My father wasn't even buried yet. I looked at Marcus, he was smirking. Just slightly. Almost imperceptibly. But it was there. A private joke. A secret I wasn't part of. Something was wrong, not with the house, not with the heir, but with my family. Grief didn't make people this calculated. But greed did. My father had loved us both. But Marcus always felt overshadowed. He struggled through school, I excelled. He worked at the family business because he had to. I built my own consulting career, earned my MBA, and turned down job offers to help expand Dad's real estate firm. Our father rewarded discipline, responsibility, honesty. So I expected sadness in that house. Not paperwork. Not hushed tones. Not the uneasy feeling that the moment I walked in, I had stepped into a contest instead of mourning. That evening, after the funeral arrangements, my father's lawyer arrived. He was a tall, soft-spoken man named James Lockhart, and he carried a binder thick enough to hold someone's life story. He sat in the study, my father's sanctuary, and placed the binder gently on the desk. This will take a moment, he warned. Your father was very thorough. My brother leaned forward. Hungry. My mother folded her hands. Prepared. I stood silent, heart pounding. Lockhart began reading. Trusts, accounts, properties, business assets, personal effects, distribution instructions. And then, my name. To my son Adrian, I entrust the executive authority over Hale Properties, as well as the fiduciary decision-making power for all family assets, liquid and otherwise. My brother's jaw tightened. A vein pulsed in his temple. And to Marcus, Lockhart continued, I grant shares and assets equal in value to Adrian's, with the understanding that Adrian shall maintain legal and operational authority. Authority. The word detonated in the room. Everything was equal, but control, final say, was mine. My mother's expression cracked like ice hit with a hammer. My brother's fist closed. And I realized in that instant, they didn't lose a husband and a father. They lost power. The meeting ended. Lockhart shook my hand, gave me a look, a subtle, knowing one, and left. I didn't sleep that night. Because the house didn't feel like my home anymore. It felt like a crime scene, and the crime hadn't even happened yet. Grief changes people, or reveals them. And the days that followed exposed every hidden fracture in my family. My mother began controlling who could visit the house. Marcus started showing up late to firm meetings, skipping calls, ignoring clients. Funds mysteriously moved. Documents disappeared. And then, the moment that confirmed my suspicions. I walked into my father's office one afternoon and found my brother using his login keycard at the filing cabinet. "Looking for something?" I asked. He didn't jump. Didn't panic. Just calmly closed the drawer. "Dad made mistakes," he said. He was old-fashioned. "You don't know how to run this family yet." "That's why he gave me authority," I replied. He smirked. "That's what the paper says." "Sure." Paper. Meaning the will. The trust. The assets. Meaning legality was suddenly optional, in his mind. I didn't react. Not outwardly. But inside. Something shifted. I remembered being kids, him throwing away my homework and pretending it was an accident. He laughed when he saw me looking for it. Him smiling when I got in trouble. Envy doesn't disappear with age. It evolves. Gets sharper. More strategic. I left the room without another word. Because revenge doesn't begin with rage. It begins with awareness. When betrayal hides in the shadows, you don't confront it with noise. You prepare. Silently. Like a surgeon sharpening a scalpel. I hired my own attorney, separate from the estate lawyer. A woman named Rebecca Winters. Sharp eyes, precise questions, zero tolerance for ego. I told her everything. The behavior, the access attempts, the financial irregularities. She listened. "Your father protected you legally," she said. "But power invites sabotage. If they alter documents or hide assets, you need proof, paper trails, timestamps, audit trails." "Meaning?" I asked. "Meaning you don't tell them you know. You watch. And you document everything." I nodded. Cold. Focused. She leaned forward. "And Adrian, this isn't emotional. This is strategic. If they come for your position, your legacy, your rights, you don't confront them. You let them bury themselves." Smart. Legal. Psychological. Exactly what we will do. 2 nights later, I walked into the kitchen and found my mother pouring wine. 2 glasses. Marcus walked in behind me. "Join us," she said flatly. "We need to talk." I sat. Not because I wanted to, but because I wanted to hear the battlefield announcement. My mother lifted her glass. "Your father was a complicated man," she began. "He meant well. But he favored order too much. Too much duty. And sometimes fairness is flexible. Flexible. A beautiful word for theft. We've spoken to a financial advisor," Marcus added casually. "He believes the estate should be restructured. Joint authority. Family unity. Translation, strip me of power." "And if I say no?" I asked. My brother leaned back, smiling lazily. "You won't." Arrogance, the final ingredient of downfall. I didn't argue. Didn't defend. Just nodded slowly as if thinking it over. "Let's finish dinner," I said quietly. "Tomorrow we can talk about details." Their relief was visible. They thought I was folding. But here's the truth. When your enemy believes they're winning, they expose themselves. And tonight they exposed everything. I left the table early. Went upstairs to my father's study. Stood in the quiet darkness surrounded by framed accomplishments, certificates, and photos of a man who built a legacy with integrity. And I whispered to the air, to him, "They think they're smarter than you. They think they can rewrite what you built. They think they can erase me." The chandelier flickered. Coincidence, I know. But at that moment it felt like a response. I didn't feel grief anymore. I felt purpose. Cold. Rational. Precise. That night, while they slept peacefully believing I was surrendering, I printed the first stack of bank logs, asset ledgers, and access timestamps. Because in betrayal, timing is everything. They believed I was blind. But I had already begun to see. And I wasn't going to fight them with emotion. I was going to end them with evidence. When betrayal comes from family, it doesn't scream. It whispers. It smiles. And it waits for you to doubt your own perception. But I didn't doubt anymore. I observed. By the next morning, I had already set the plan in motion. My goal wasn't confrontation, it was confirmation. They needed to believe they were in control, even as the ground beneath them began to dissolve. I started by giving them what they wanted, access. I let Marcus accidentally overhear a call with my assistant about my travel plans. I spoke loud enough for him to know that I'd be in Chicago for 2 weeks consulting on a new client project. That wasn't true. I wasn't going anywhere. Instead, I moved into a small rental loft in the city, 20 minutes away from the estate, and used remote access to monitor everything: emails, account activity, corporate files, and the estate's surveillance feeds that I quietly mirrored to a private server. By the second day, the cameras told me what I already suspected. They were meeting, secretly, with an attorney I didn't know. A man named Paul Maddox. A bankruptcy specialist. Meaning they weren't trying to restructure the family business. They were trying to bleed it dry, and me with it. I called Rebecca, my attorney. They've met with Maddox twice, I said. He's reviewing our corporate bylaws. Good, she replied calmly. That's your confirmation. They're plotting a legal coup. She paused, typing. Adrian, I want you to authorize a limited liability partition. Move the company's IP and key assets into a protective shell, one they don't know exists. Under my name? I asked. No, she said. Under a dormant entity you already control, but legally separated. Call it Hale Strategic Holdings. Keep it quiet. It took 3 days to complete. Every critical contract, property deed, and intellectual right moved safely, legally, and invisibly. On paper, the company looked the same. But the real value? Already gone. The rest, the hollow shell, I left behind for them to steal. Revenge, at its best, is indistinguishable from compliance. They thought I was passive. I was just patient. The following week, Marcus called. His tone was almost cheerful. Hey, little brother. About that restructuring talk, you got time tomorrow? Mom wants to make things official. Sure, I said, pretending disinterest. Whatever you two think is best. He hesitated. You're agreeing? I could hear the disbelief in his voice. Yes, let's do it. Because by the time they made it official, everything they thought they were taking would already be worthless. The next day I arrived at the family house. The smell of coffee, the click of my mother's heels, the overpracticed smile, it was all theater. They were giddy. Like predators mistaking a trap for an opportunity. My mother gestured toward the table. Sit, she said softly. This is for the best. Their attorney, Maddox, handed me a document. A revised corporate agreement transferring joint decision-making authority to all heirs. Marcus and I, co-executives. I flipped through the pages slowly, pretending to skim. This gives us equal control, Marcus said. Fairer for everyone. Of course, I murmured. Very fair. Then I took out my pen. Signed it. Their relief was instantaneous. Almost pitiful. My mother exhaled audibly, smiling for real this time. See, Adrian? Family harmony. Just like your father would have wanted. I met her gaze, calm, neutral, unreadable. Exactly, I said quietly. Just like he would have wanted. What I didn't say was that the document they just celebrated over didn't control the company anymore. It controlled an empty shell. 2 weeks later, the betrayal bloomed. They liquidated accounts. Moved funds. Filed amendments to the estate claiming I'd consented to asset transfers. They even sent termination notices to 3 of my firm's senior executives. But every transaction, every email, every signature, passed through the shell entity I'd left for them. Every dollar they moved was already traceable, pre-flagged for audit, and backed by falsified values they'd authorized themselves. Legally, it was textbook fraud. And I had evidence. Every file. Every timestamp. Every transfer. Tracked and notarized. My mother called one night, her voice suddenly tender. Adrian, I know things have been tense. I just want peace. Marcus can be impulsive, but he's family. We should stick together. She wanted reassurance. I gave her silence. Then I asked gently, Mom, what did you do with Dad's safety deposit box? The one from the old branch. She froze. I could hear it. That half-second pause before the lie. Oh, that, she said. We closed it. Nothing important. Of course, I said softly. Good night, Mom. I hung up. The next morning, I visited that bank. Spoke with the branch manager, an old family friend who still recognized me. The box hadn't been closed. It had been accessed 3 days ago. By Marcus. Using my father's expired key and a forged authorization letter. He took something. The contents weren't listed. But the access logs were time-stamped. Rebecca's voice when I told her was like steel. That's theft and forgery, she said. Do not confront. Let them finish their crimes. We're documenting. And then? I asked. Then we burn them legally, together. The breaking point came on a Friday. I received a call from one of our old real estate partners in Richmond. He was furious. Adrian, did you authorize the sale of the Meadowbrook property? My blood ran cold. That property was one of our father's oldest developments, sentimental and valuable. No, I said. Why? Because your brother just signed off on a transfer, cash deal, private buyer. I didn't speak for a moment. Just exhaled slowly. How much? I finally asked. 2.3 million. I thanked him and hung up. Then I sat there, staring at the silent phone, feeling nothing but calm precision. They had crossed the line from betrayal into self-destruction. So I let the last piece of my plan unfold. That weekend, I initiated a comprehensive audit across Hale Properties' shell records, the version they controlled. My software flagged every irregular transaction, every forged signature, every misappropriated asset. Rebecca filed a confidential complaint to the Virginia State Business Regulation Board and attached the entire audit. Legally, it was explosive. Then we filed a secondary report, under a separate entity name, to the IRS Fraud Division, citing unreported transfers exceeding $1 million. In less than 72 hours, 2 government departments were investigating. But I didn't tell them. Not yet. I wanted them to feel the illusion of victory first. To smile at their own genius. To think they'd finally beaten me. That Sunday, Marcus threw dinner. Invited friends. Investors. Extended family. He toasted new beginnings. He bragged about how he'd taken charge of the family legacy. My mother beamed. And I sat at the end of the table, glass raised, smiling like a man already dead inside, because ghosts make the best witnesses. When he looked at me, I smiled wider. To my family, I said. He clinked my glass. His eyes glowed with triumph. If only he knew he was celebrating his own indictment. It came 3 days later. Marcus called, panicked. Adrian, what the hell did you do? The accounts are frozen. The bank says there's a federal audit. I listened quietly, then said, that sounds serious. He cursed. You think this is funny? They're questioning every transfer. Even Mom's accounts. I stayed calm. Measured. Silent for a full 5 seconds. Then, Marcus, I said softly, you remember that document you signed? The Joint Authority one. Yeah, what about it? Every transaction that came after was your authorization, not mine. You insisted on equal control. Congratulations, you're equally liable. He went silent. Completely. The kind of silence that tastes like fear. Then he hung up. And I exhaled for the first time in months. Because the storm had finally begun, and it wasn't mine to weather. That evening, my mother came to my apartment. Unannounced. No makeup. Eyes red from crying or rage. She didn't knock. She walked in. What did you do? She demanded. Protect what was mine, I said calmly. They're seizing assets, Adrian. Investigators called me this morning. Do you have any idea what you've done to this family? I looked at her, really looked. The woman who once kissed my scraped knees when I was a boy now glared like a stranger protecting her accomplice. What have I done? I repeated. I followed the law. You broke it. Her voice cracked. We're your family. Exactly, I said. That's why I haven't pressed charges yet. She blinked. What? You'll get the notice soon. Fraud. Embezzlement. Forgery. If you cooperate, it stays civil. If not, I paused. Federal. Her breath hitched. You wouldn't. I stepped closer. I would. Because my father's legacy deserves better than this circus of greed you and Marcus turned it into. She stood there shaking. Then I left. The door clicked shut behind her like a period on a final sentence. That night, I sat in the dark, watching the city lights fade beyond the glass. For the first time, I didn't feel revenge. I felt clarity. I didn't destroy them. They destroyed themselves. I just handed them the paperwork. There's a moment, right before justice arrives, when the world goes eerily still. Like the air itself knows what's about to happen, and holds its breath. That moment came 3 weeks later. I was in my office, early morning, the city still waking up under the slow blush of dawn. My phone buzzed. An email. Subject line, Case number 47BF392 Fraud Investigation Update. I opened it. Read the first line twice. Then a third time. The Federal Bureau of Investigation has officially opened a criminal inquiry into Hale Properties LLC, Marcus Hale, and Evelyn Hale for multiple counts of corporate fraud, document forgery, and tax evasion. I stared at the words until they blurred. Not out of satisfaction, but something closer to release. The cage they built for me had become their own. By noon it was on the news. Virginia business under investigation. Possible embezzlement within family-run real estate firm. The clip showed the old family house, my father's estate, now taped off with federal seals. Reporters stood at the gates, microphones outstretched like vultures waiting for a confession. Marcus was nowhere to be seen. My mother? She issued a statement through her lawyer: misunderstanding, family dispute, internal audit error. But the truth doesn't hide forever. Especially not when every forged signature, every falsified transfer, every hidden account is stamped with digital time logs and notarized receipts. Rebecca, my attorney, had orchestrated it perfectly. Every legal domino in place. Every motion filed quietly. No theatrics. No vengeance. Just inevitability. 3 days later, Marcus showed up at my office. Unannounced. Eyes bloodshot, jaw unshaven, suit wrinkled like it had slept on a couch. He didn't wait for permission. He slammed the door shut behind him. "You set us up," he hissed. "No," I said. "You set yourself up. I just took notes." He stepped closer. "Do you think this makes you some kind of hero? You ruined Mom. You ruined everything Dad built." I stood slowly, walked to the window, hands in my pockets. "Dad built something strong," I said quietly. "You just tried to hollow it out for a quick payout." He scoffed. "You always thought you were smarter. Always the golden boy." "No," I said. "Just quieter." He grabbed my desk. "You think you win because you called the feds? They'll trace it back to the company, to you." I turned to face him. "Not this time. You signed every document after the restructuring. Every transaction. Every wire. You wanted equal control, you got equal accountability." His voice cracked. "You can't let them put Mom in prison." "Then you should have thought of that before you forged Dad's signature," I said coldly. "Before you sold his properties. Before you used my name to launder money through fake accounts." He looked at me then, not as a brother but as a man staring at his own reflection for the first time and realizing he's the villain in the story. "I just wanted what was mine," he whispered. "So did I said. "And now I have it. The truth." He left without another word. And when the door closed, I didn't feel triumph. Just exhaustion, the kind that comes after surviving a storm that started inside your own home. The trial lasted 6 months. Federal, not state. No cameras allowed, thank God. Marcus faced multiple counts of wire fraud, tax evasion, and falsifying business records. My mother, aiding and abetting, conspiracy, and misuse of estate funds. I testified only once. Briefly. Factually. Without emotion. The prosecutor asked me how I discovered the fraud. I said, "I didn't discover it. I watched it happen." "Why didn't you intervene sooner?" he asked. I paused. Then said quietly, "Because sometimes the only way to teach a thief a lesson is to let him finish the crime." The courtroom went silent. When the verdict came, it wasn't surprising. Marcus, sentenced to 9 years in federal prison with restitution. My mother, 2 years probation and forfeiture of assets. The judge's words still echo in my mind. This court finds that family loyalty does not excuse criminal conduct. Betrayal within bloodlines often carries the deepest wounds, but the law cannot distinguish between family and strangers when deceit is this deliberate. I didn't attend the sentencing. Rebecca called me afterward. "It's done," she said simply. I thanked her. Hung up. Then I walked out of my office without locking the door. Because some endings don't need closure. Just distance. The estate was sold to cover legal costs. The house, my childhood, my memories, gone. But I didn't care. I bought a small cabin in upstate New York. Quiet. Untouched. No ghosts. Some nights I sit on the porch and think about my father. About the way he used to say, "Integrity is a currency. Once you spend it, it's gone forever." I understand that now. Because my family spent all of theirs. 2 months after the sentencing, I received a letter from my mother. Handwritten. Neat, elegant cursive like she used when I was a child. "Adrian, you were always like your father. Too proud. Too rigid. Maybe that's why he trusted you more. I did what I thought I had to do. I just didn't think you'd turn against your own family. Whatever peace you found, I hope it keeps you warm. Because you'll never feel loved the same way again. Mom." I folded the letter carefully, slid it into a drawer, and never replied. Because she was right, I would never feel loved the same way again. But I would feel something stronger, peace. And that's rarer than forgiveness. A year later, I visited my father's grave. It was raining. Gray skies, cold wind, and the smell of wet earth, fitting. I knelt beside the stone and placed a single folded document on the grass. The deed to Hale Strategic Holdings. The real company. The one still thriving. "Your name's still on it," I whispered. "Everything you built is safe now. And they can't touch it." I waited a moment. The rain hit the marble like quiet applause. Then I smiled. Not because I'd won, but because I'd kept my promise. People ask what revenge feels like. They expect satisfaction, vindication, and fire. It's none of that. It's silent. It's balanced. It's walking away knowing the truth didn't need your anger, it just needed your patience. And that's what most people never understand. Justice doesn't bleed. It signs. It stamps. It files. And it closes the case with precision. My family broke me once. But I rebuilt myself, law by law, signature by signature. Because sometimes revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. It's about forcing them to live with the ruins they created. If this story hit you deep, if you've ever felt betrayed by the very people who were supposed to protect you, remember this: silence doesn't mean weakness. It means you're building your case. Justice doesn't always shout. Sometimes, it whispers in legal language only the guilty can hear. If you believe in poetic justice and karma served cold, then like this video, share it with someone who needs strength, and comment "justice served" below. And don't forget, help us reach 5,000 subscribers so we can keep bringing you real stories of betrayal, truth, and redemption. This is Betrayal Nation, where loyalty ends and justice begins.